Home Care Ops Nation, Kevin here with Home Care Ops. I have a guest that I've known for a while now, Adam Cochran with Elevation Marketing, also known as Home Care Flyers. So we have that name down there. Some of you know him as Home Care Flyers in the home care community. He's a little unique among all the resource partners that we introduced you in this series of Home Care Ops Nation and talking to different resource partners, because this is someone that we've actually used. Most of their home care agencies have a lot more use for him, a lot more things that you could do with a company that does print material, marketing material. But as we were prepping for this, I took a drink out of this and I saw him smile, because even this little tumbler is something that we ordered through him. And bringing him on here as an expert to talk to you about branding in general and things that you as a home care owner could do to better set your image up and yourself up for success. And so, Adam, before I get into the questions that we talked about here, maybe if you could introduce yourself a little bit more. How long? I know you actually came from the home care space, so kind of give a little bit of introduction of your background, why you're doing this and what your passion is about this. And then we'll get into some questions to help them get set up better as a home care owner.
Absolutely. First and foremost, thank you, Home Care Ops Nation, Jessica Clinton, Kevin. I appreciate this opportunity. It's been a great relationship thus far for the past couple of years. So I look forward to helping the community out and future opportunities. As Kevin, you said, my name is Adam Corcoran. I come from the home care industry. So I've spent the past decade in marketing and sales as the director of business development for a home care agency in Southwest Florida. And then actually during COVID in 2020, I started a side business to help agency owners across the nation with sales, marketing, printed materials, apparel, promotional products. The reason why I started our business was during COVID, we saw a big opportunity because, as you all know, during COVID was a very stressful time for a lot of us. And as a graphic designer, I created a one-page flyer, and it had just bullet points, and it spoke to why home care was so relevant during that time. That one piece of collateral was instrumental in our home care agency's business growth during that time. And I took it upon myself to reach out to other home care owners across the nation in the way of Facebook forums and groups, and offering to do this flyer for them at no cost. And quickly, a business was born called Home Care Flyers. So back in 2020, we were doing basically just that, flyers for home care agencies that specifically spoke to specific needs or referral sources to understand how home care can support in that situation. And then quickly, that company evolved to Elevation Marketing in 2022, where we rebranded, and now we offer a wide variety of services with print material, promotional products, apparel, and such. So we have a niche market in home care because we're more than just a print shop, right? I come to the table with over a decade of experience of being in the shoes of a salesperson, sitting in a car in the parking lot of a hospital, thinking about what deliverables I'm going to go into the in-service with, right? So that's kind of what sets me apart from your traditional big box printing companies or online resources, because I have the experience of the home care industry to really be able to elevate your brand and help you accomplish a lot of your goals. So
Awesome. I love that. And I also come with a lot of experience in branding marketing. That's most of my role here at Home Care Ops, is to just work on the look and feel of everything, how it gets communicated. And there's a lot that goes to that that a lot of people don't think about. And now, if you're a home care owner watching this video, chances are you're in the newer stages, or you're in a stage of plateauing, so to speak, in your growth. You're looking for ways to leverage and improve marketing, sales, branding strategies. So Adam, as they're watching this, what would you say are some of the main aspects of a brand identity for a home care agency, and why is that so important for them to understand before taking steps to maybe get a website or print material added to their portfolio?
Yeah, I think sometimes brand identity gets lost in the mix when we're either starting a business or even trying to rebrand or redevelop yourself in that home care space. Brand identity is very important because it allows you to give this opportunity of telling your story, right? Understanding why you're doing what you're doing in the home care world. Everyone has a reason, right? And having that brand identity, even as simple as like your logo or your printed materials, gives you that opportunity. I've seen time and time again home care owners or not or any business, right? They have, maybe they're putting together their materials from different vendors or they're creating stuff on Canva and they're using different resources. And if you look at their whole portfolio of materials,
Mhm.
it's actually very confusing. And to me, brand confusion can really be a negative impact to one's business. So when I'm talking about a brand identity, I want to be able to look at someone's logo on their shirt or pick up a flyer or brochure and know within seconds of what that company is and who they are and what they represent. So I think sometimes, people are quick to, get a logo, get real fast, and then try to jumpstart and get into the nitty gritty of the business. But truly identifying their brand guidelines and what that means, their color schemes, and how that plays a part into everything that they have is very important. Because as we know in sales and marketing, consistency is instrumental.
Yeah, something that we talk about quite a bit in our coaching as we work with agencies on operations and everything else. We talk about 3 points, and this is our goal too internally. Anytime I put out material or we do a video, does it look good, feel good, and do good? Right?
Right.
Not just for us, but for the people that are receiving the material or watching the video or going to our website. And so a lot of this stuff, like you said, sometimes there's some confusion. I cringe and wince a little bit when I see 5 to 20 different fonts in a
Right.
same single space, because it just means that there's really not an identity there. There's just a hodgepodge, right? And so I love how you said that deciding on things and being consistent about things and using someone that actually can help guide you with that, or set up a brand guide. I know a lot of people love Canva, um, but there's a brand tool in there, brand kit. So you don't have to just go to Canva and get their generic stuff. You can slowly develop a brand kit over time. So everyone could do that. I do that internally. Like anything that comes out of our company, we have Canva. And our team, if they go in and create something instead of me, they go to our brand kit first,
That's right.
and then they don't have to go find something that doesn't look like our brand. So I love that. So now, brand image and the material is one aspect of a company helping put their brand out in the community, communicate their brand to the community. Something we talk about quite a bit, and I know you can shed some light on this, with your background in doing this for home care agency, and now the resources you provide to home care agencies. What's the difference between marketing and sales? Most people put it in the same bucket.
Hmm.
I know that it's different. Explain to us watching how it is different. Like,
Yeah,
where do they know where that line is, and also how one supports the other.
yeah, absolutely. And they do work in hand in some situations. But sales and marketing is so very different. I look at it from the perspective of, and different tasks that you do in a day-to-day basis can look different from a sales perspective or a marketing perspective. I was always interested when people are like, "Oh, I'm posting stuff on social media. I'm doing sales." I'm like, that's not sales. That's really actually branding and marketing. So when
Hmm.
I'm thinking of marketing, I'm thinking of your branding. I'm thinking about brand recognition, some of your social media tactics, unless it has a very clear call to action with really like intensive forums and you're doing some strategic sales in that social media platform. Most of the time, that's going to be marketing. When I
Hmm.
think of sales, I'm thinking of, bootstrap on the ground, going into the hospitals, the rehabs, your referral partners, setting up in services and those sales calls, getting in there and really understanding what their needs are from a referral partner perspective, and then coming up with solutions to be able to meet their needs. But on that is the fundamental, right, the foundation of marketing, right? Without having true great marketing and branding and professional look and feel, your sales sometimes can fall flat, right? Because they do go hand in hand together. I remember clearly, and I'll give you an example because I think it's helpful when you tell stories. Um, I worked with the newer home care agency, and she had just gotten her logo, but she had no printed collateral or anything. And she was very fortunate to book her first in-service with about 7 social workers at a hospital. And she called me late one night. It was actually a Wednesday night, and she had the in-service the next day. And she said, "Adam, I don't have anything. I was like, we need to get to work." And I said, "Well, let's talk a little bit about what you want to accomplish." Now, she was going into this sales situation, right, but didn't have any marketing, any brand to really support that. So we worked tirelessly for a couple hours to build some collateral that she can go print out in real time to be able to have and support her for that sales meeting. So they do go hand in hand. And then fast forward the next week, she called me because she received her first 5 referrals, literally from that first meeting. And her, like, she was like in tears because of what had accomplished in that one meeting. And she said, "Adam, it was more than just the business cards and the flyers." I said, "Yeah, absolutely." She goes, "No, you gave me the confidence and professional look and feel to be able to go in there and execute that in service appropriately." I had to sit back and say, "Aha!" Like that's it. Like
Yeah.
without that brand, that marketing, that in service really could have fallen flat, you know? So really they do go hand in hand, but there are two separate things. When you're thinking of sales and going and calling on your referral partners, but then you have to really be focusing also on making sure that you have good brand identity and you're doing stuff behind the scenes of like advertising and multimedia, the different platforms. So they do go hand in hand.
I've always thought of marketing as that 24/7 um, PR aspect of your business, right? They can get on the website anytime. They can pick up the brochure or the business card anytime. And when they do, how does that speak to them? How does it make them feel? How does it help them understand your brand? And then the sales is taking those qualified leads and actually working on the closing,
Yep.
right? And so if the sales and marketing communicates well, your why and enough of your what for them to realize that it fits what they need,
Mhm.
then that's going to create that sales opportunity, right? So the
Sure.
marketing drives opportunities. And after the sales appointment or visit and consult is done, the marketing helps them recall that, helps them feel good about that, and helps them retain that information if it's done well and if it connects to the sales message. If the sales message and the marketing messages are disjointed and disconnected, like the brand,
Mhm.
then it's going to be harder for them to really understand like what they just experienced.
Sure.
So
That's true.
awesome. Now, as you look at, there's a sea of opportunity of things that they could do as a smaller starting up business. Maybe a business is looking at more creative ways to leverage their marketing through material. What kind of promotional item consideration should a home care agency look at? Like, what should they be thinking about when they think about their basic set of things that they should need?
Yeah. I've spent years and years and years of investing money into items that I hope and prayed worked, right? So, I mean, I've been on the other side of it. And now that I'm in this role that I am today, I'm very strategic because, I truly want to make sure that every dollar and cent that we're investing or you're investing as a home care agency is well spent. So when I look at the key metrics of your promotional products, I look at three components. One is quality, right? But then also utility and shelf life. So those three things are the components that I really, really, really focus on. And you might ask, well, why? So shelf life is so important. When you're thinking of a promotional product or swag or a little tchotchke giveaway, you want to make sure that it's something that someone's going to be able to use over a lifetime of a period of time. I think of sometimes of people who invest money into like consumables, like let's just
Hmm.
say, mints, right? Mints, you might have like 10 mints in a can, and that's fine. But you do understand that when after they eat those mints, the intention of that product is to be thrown away,
Yep.
right? So it's like, the shelf life of that consumable is very low, right?
Well, and
Whereas,
even pens, Adam. I've had pens. Like I've gone to an event and the pen didn't even last long enough for me to get home with it. Like I
sure,
threw it away on the way back because, and I take notes. So,
right, right,
like
right.
as an event, I took notes until and that pen ran out on me during a 3-day event.
Well,
Like that is silly.
and that goes to quality too. I
Yeah.
mean, look, I could sit here with a bin full of pens, and I could tell you right now which one's my favorite pen, right? Because I'm a big pen snob. But that also
Mhm.
goes back to quality. Like, I get probably inquiries once a week of like, hey, just find me the cheapest pen. And I'm like, well, what do you really want that cheapest pen to do for you? Like, no, you actually want to be someone's favorite pen that they're going to look for when they're going to write something. We have so many different strategies when we're looking at shelf life and utility. Utility is another big thing. You want to make sure that you're purchasing something that is actually going to be utilized. I remember early on in my career, um, I had a director of nursing that only wrote with a pen the Pilot G2 pen, gel pen. And it's a higher end pen, it's a good quality pen,
Mhm.
but that's all he wrote with. And I remember we invested in those as an agency because I knew that's something that he was always looking for. And it actually gave me reasons to go back into the account because it was like a running joke that all the nurses used to steal his pen. So like we had to
Mhm.
go replenish every once in a while. But it was something that was like that started conversation. It was a good reason to go back into accounts. So it was definitely a product that I thought was valuable because every dollar and cent you really should be looking at return on investment. And
Mhm.
very rarely with promotional products, you can say, oh, I got a client from that, right? The one product that I will say is my hands down favorite for home care owners is walker bags. Now it's a little bag that you put on the front of a walker,
It's like the
and
fanny packs for seniors because they're
that's
on the
exactly
walker instead.
that's exactly right. And I can tell you, hands down, I would go to all the assisted livings and set up like ice cream socials and put those walker bags on everybody who came. And I can tell you firsthand that I've gotten direct referrals from that because I would always ask, like, oh, the daughter, son, whoever called, like, how did you hear about us? And they would reference, we saw your walker bags in mom's assisted living. And I was like, it worked, it worked, So ultimately, it was a good investment because, you want your promotional products, your printed material to work for you as well.
Well, I think that leads really good into the next question I wanted to ask you here, and it's how can these professional marketing materials that they put time and effort into, how can they help with your sales strategy? And we kind of touched on it a minute ago too, with how well it connects to the brand
Yep.
and the messaging and the communication. So expound on that a little bit on how like really professional marketing material can help them with the sales closing and strategies.
Yep. I think of it twofold, right? So when you're creating materials, you want to think of your audience in mind. Now, if you're talking specifically to, let's get very specific. Let's say that we're talking to a social worker that works for a hospice agency, right? And they're probably given a ton of collateral from dozens of different home care agencies. But if you took the opportunity to construct a piece of literature that spoke specifically to how your agency works in line with a hospice agency to be able to support their patients,
Hmm.
that social worker, that hospice agency is more likely going to want to use that tool to be able to help educate their patients or patients' families because it's so specific to be able to. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't room for general sales materials, but I've always been a big believer in. I come to the world of. I used to be a school teacher early on in my career, so I always said, Like creating visual aids that spoke to specific situations is always going to have an upper hand on fluff. And I say
Mhm.
fluff in a way that, anyone could put together a flyer and just say we do home care. But what does that mean to the person
Mhm.
who's reading it? I also say the same thing from a perspective of like when a family is reading your literature and making a decision on selecting a home care company. You want to understand how they are feeling in that moment as they're reading that literature, and what are certain things that you can put into this literature to spark to transition someone into making that phone call. I think having that personalized touch is a really important factor, and being able to have again that compassion and understanding of their situation at hand, of how you can be a solution to their problem. Because all sales and marketing really is how we in the home care industry are going to be a solution to that person's problem. Let's be very honest.
I love
No
how you
one's
said that you just make it relatable. Like you talked about in the referral partner sense. I know as I've talked to home care owners over the years, because like I've been adjacent to this industry, I'll call it, for some time. I haven't actually been in a home care business, but as I talk to home care agency owners and they're trying to figure out how to introduce themselves, I say, well, rather than saying I own a home care business, excuse me, um, maybe turn it into a quick question and say, do you know how a lot of seniors like to stay at home and need some extra care? Yeah. Well, I provide caregivers to make that possible. Right. That's so much better than saying I do home care. And so as you come up with that content, as you put that material together and you communicate it, like go off of what's relevant to them. Like if you do Alzheimer's dementia care, share kind of a why in there
that's
or an
right.
outcome that people should expect. That's that brand promise that ties back that they're going to experience. I mean, that's the feel goods that they
Mhm.
continue to carry that will help drive those sales,
That's
right?
right. That's
I
right.
don't I don't keep going back to the same restaurant because I need food. I go back to the same restaurant because I enjoy the experience and the quality of the food, right?
Right.
So home care owners could understand that a little bit better as they work on their marketing material, and that's we're using a professional, someone that understands that can help them drive there. But even before they come to someone like you, they have to understand their identity and who they are and kind of formulate that as well. So as they kind of take this video and look at ways that they can take those next steps, and we love talking about next steps here at Home Care Ops. What are the next steps and tasks that you feel a home care owner could do at any point? If they're watching this, they're looking at this for a reason, they want to do something. What are some next steps that they could do right now to, on their own, start improving their sales and marketing efforts?
Yeah, I think first and foremost is planning. I mean, action without a plan is really poor execution. And sometimes, to be quite honest with you, early in my career, I would just go and try to execute without really a purpose or a mission. I would really slow down and really look at the whole landscape of my sales and marketing department, looking at all aspects. Who are my referral partners that are currently referring to us? How have we been successful in those areas? Looking at all of our portfolio of everything that we have in regards to your printed materials and your branding, your promotional products. But then also coming up with, I always like to operate 2 quarters ahead. I know
Mm-hmm.
that might sound crazy to some people because I know the home care world can get very angst, and it's hard to prepare for, months ahead. But the reality is having a general landscape of what referral sources that you're going to be partnering with in that next quarter, what sales tactics are you going to be incorporating, what advertising you're going to be incorporating. All this is so important. So planning, I would say, is very huge. And don't beat yourself up on it too. If you put a plan together, you set certain goals and you don't get to it, that's okay. Restructure that next quarter and being able to refocus. But I also think setting goals in your marketing and sales strategies is very important because you want to make sure that you're measuring the appropriate KPIs
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that the stuff that you're doing is working or not. And if it's not over a long period of time, then you have to refocus, restructure, pivot to a new task. So I would say really taking a step back and planning consulting with great people in our industry, sharing stories with other home care owners with this, a great community that we have in home care ops
Mhm.
really gives us the opportunity to look at the future.
Well, something I'd offer here too is I was at a conference a long time ago. It was for a franchise, and people were asking like, "Well, how do we create all this stuff? How do we create this messaging?" And one of the people in the marketing from that franchise group said, "Don't create, document. Like keep track of things." So I love how you said that. It's okay, just pay attention, see what's going on. Take the feedback from clients, take the feedback from experiences, even with your sales team. If they're not succeeding with the material that's out there and it's not connecting to your brand, change it. And rather than just reordering from someone like Adam when you run out of flyers, take a second to flip through it and make sure that it still reflects what you're doing. I meant age myself, but for 3 years I sold phone book ads.
Really?
Okay, like I was a phone book guy a long time ago, a really long time ago. And the thing that drove me nuts was when I walked into a business and they would just renew the same ad as the year before.
Yep.
And I would stop them for a second. I was like, I can do that, but can you honestly tell me nothing's changed in the last year with your business? That there's not anything else you'd like to focus on for this coming year? Because this is 12 months commitment in this phone book, right?
Yeah.
Is there something else that you'd like to portray and convey through that ad? And I'd say, as you're looking at your material, it's okay. Any brand should evolve and not stagnate. And so look at how it connects. Think about your sales frustrations, your sales successes, and figure out what attributed to that. So the next iteration of a business card or a brochure or anything really fits better with your current brand messaging, your outcomes. So that'd be one quick thing I'd offer here too.
No, that's right. And I've always said, like I said earlier, having new fresh material gives you a reason to go into your sales accounts, right? I mean, because if you have the same brochure for 5 years, you're not presenting anything new, right? Freshen it up, new pictures, new message. Maybe it's a new service line. Get something new that you can start talking about.
Yeah, and personalize that kind of make it your own, right? And
Storytell. I've always said storytelling is such an impactful way. That was one of my best sales strategies. And it took me a long time to really identify that. But me going into some of my referral partners and telling stories of how we helped this family this
mhm.
month because Mr. Smith was a huge fall risk, but we came in and we helped in certain aspects. So then I put this bug in their mind of saying like, oh, who else do I know like Mr. Smith that I can refer to Adam because they did such a good job in that one scenario.
So
Um,
basically, you just should drop off a storybook about your brand, not a dictionary about home care, right?
right. That's right. That's
When you
right.
drop off material. Awesome. Well, Adam, I certainly appreciate you. I know that a lot of home care owners, because I see it all the time in our home care ops community, ask questions all the time about ideas, suggestions, recommendations. I know that you're someone that gets a lot of attention there and authority in there. So I appreciate you taking the time and effort here, bringing that expertise to the table. For those that are watching this, if you have questions, we're gonna have the contact details in here, and I know that you can watch from in the community as he contributes there occasionally. Maybe even some content on the website, some case studies or some ideas that come from him. So just watch for those things. Certainly find a way to reach out to him. I know he's, as you've seen here, he really is a great conversationist. He knows the industry, can ask the right questions. So feel free to reach out to him. Adam, any parting thoughts, real quick, for them
You know,
before we wrap this up?
I just think, sales and marketing in some times in home care can seem overwhelming and kind of sometimes scary, right? A lot of home care owners come from a clinical background and they've been clinicians, their entire lives, and sales can feel so uncomfortable. But you got to take little steps forward and being able to build that confidence. So, my only takeaway is just try it, and get out there. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you feel.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate your time today. Everyone else, just keep watching these different videos. There's a lot of great resource partners here, and provide us your feedback. We want to hear from you. So in the Home Caps community on Facebook, contribute there. I know a lot of people are in the same place where you are. So as you have wins with your branding and marketing efforts, share them there. We love to have the community lift each other up.